That was quite funny. I hope Frank doesn't cut out that hilarious anecdote, Dorky. Anyways, what are we talking about this week?
Wait, what'd you say?
Okay. It's
Wait,
okay.
say it again.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I was trying to do a bit where it was gonna look like Frank cut out somebody saying something funny, but we were just
Oh,
nobody had
yeah.
said something funny.
Yeah. I see.
Yeah,
That's an
Oh,
insanely
yeah,
good
yeah,
bit. I mean, well,
because
maybe
yeah,
it
the
did.
problem, because Frank kind of got me pretty good. I don't know if you guys saw in one of the recent ones where I was trying to do the thing we do where we talk about footage, and he just put up a footage of me dying.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
yeah,
falling to your death.
That's kind of messed up.
Goddamn Frank.
Yeah, but my plan
Yeah, but
was
the intro would have went hard. You could have told us that, and then we would have.
yeah.
Been,
Maybe that would have been better. Hey everybody, it's episode 27 of the PoddyC. Now don't panic. I know there's been bad things when there's just been me on the screen before, but this time it's not that. What happened this week was we recorded in the first like 15 minutes or so. It was kind of boring. I don't know. It wasn't very good. So we told Frank to cut it out, and then Frank was like, well, it doesn't make any sense unless you have some kind of bit giving context or whatever. So I need you to go record an intro so that you can have it make sense and stuff. So that's what I'm doing now. But yeah, enjoy the rest of the episode. We're going to cut in kind of in the middle. I don't remember what we were talking about. We're going to cut in at some point when Frank decides that it was getting interesting. I will say as well, this episode, I think got pretty good towards the end as well. So if you find yourself getting bored in the middle, skip to the end. Don't close out. That's a pro tip for you. Anyways, enjoy the show.
my thing that I saw was kind of interesting. PoddyC reworks on alpha this week. Was they added like a silence to gripping things, or is it just mass grip?
It's just mass grip.
It's just mass grip.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Dude, I don't like that change.
I don't think you'll take that point still. I don't think
Yeah,
that's
I think
worth
an M
it.
plus. I think an M plus.
They were
definitely
trying to
would.
make the point more attractive because you actually get gore fiends. By the way, if you guys are listening to this in your PoddyC, I think the PoddyC changes were largely positive for sure, and there's still some room to go there. But
Yeah.
like I read that and I was like, I wonder if speaking of the whole nerfing one thing instead of buffing the others, I was like, wait, are they gonna is there a solution for Vengeance DH? Like, let's give all these other tanks a bunch of silences and stops because because I remember Dorki had this conversation where if no one else in the game mattered, right? Only you tanked and that was it. And they wanted to make the game best for you. You said it's like really, really fun as a Vengeance DH, right? Because you have full control of everything. So like as an individual player, as a tank, you actually like current Vengeance because you feel like you have more agency in the key. You matter more as a player. Obviously, the downside of that is like people already say tanks have too much on their plate. So like for the rest of the game, I'm not sure if that's the right thing, but I wonder how you felt about that. I don't think they're actually doing that, by the way, because I still think the reality is they probably have to nerf Vengeance, right? They can't actually just add like 3 buttons to every other tank class to make them do as much CC as Vengeance. In the most recent nerf, actually, what's your opinion on all of that, including the most recent nerf?
Yeah, it's actually kind of ridiculous just because the amount of stops right now are absolutely wild, and I think if they continue going down that path, it would only create more and more problematic dungeons where the only way you play them is by just rotating AoE stops every single pull. And while it's fun for a bit, it could get tiring extremely quick, especially when you're doing it in a really high level environment, or not even high level environment, just like a high stress environment, depending on your level, right? Like you could be doing a 10, but 10s could be really stressful for you. And I was like, I've been watching a lot of VDH streams, and like everyone sort of says the same. Like I was just tuning into Skylark today, the tank for mandatory, and they're just like perma locking down these 4 or 5 or so mobs, and even he's like, dude, we gotta chill out. These mobs don't get a break because they're just purposely CC the entire time. Like we can't even cast a single spell, and that's not even like the DDH. It's like the combination of the DH and the rest of the party. And I think it's going to be a huge problem if they continue doing this for tanks. Like, while I did say it was going to be fun for tanks to have that agency, it's also a little bit too overwhelming. And like I said, I don't think many tanks will be able to bear that responsibility, nor do they want to. And it's especially bad on a class like PoddyC because your globals are so valuable. There'd be moments where it's like, all right, it's your AoE stop next, but at the same time, like if you're not pressing Death Strike on that very global, you're literally dead. So it's like such a problem when you have tanks that are very global dependents, who are also using multiple globals on stops. And like that even happens for Vengeance. I'm sure like anyone who plays Vengeance fully understands what I'm talking about, where it's like, all right, I gotta survive this extremely scary pull, but at the same time, I gotta like fear sigil here, and I gotta grip, and I gotta silence. And by the time you use all your utility sigils, you actually end up being dead.
Yeah, that is a very real phenomenon. I do think as well, like tank is the least. Tank and healer are both underrepresented compared to the amount of them that you need to do content, right? Like you're always looking for a tank or a healer, especially in the mid-low level. That's a problem as well, right? Adding more responsibility to that tank role does just have like a huge problem of making it more inaccessible, right? Making it the job of being the person who does the tanking, right? Like making that into something that has even more associated with doing it, right? Like you run the risk of going into a world where instead of having maybe like 15% of the player base tanking, and that's almost enough to have enough for keys, like now that declines down to like 10% or 7% or something, and the ones that are still there, especially like the really good ones, are like, oh, this is sick, I can do so much, right? But like the medium skilled tanks have just you've added 7 stops to their responsibility list alongside silencing or alongside group leading and route making and stuff. It's already like a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been having that problem this season actually. Like this season, it's especially with how much harder this season is to tank. It's kind of crazy how you're like in charge of dealing with all these mobs and you're figuring out how to call kicks and stops, but fit in your own kicks and stops. And normally tanks already have a lot on their plate, so adding even more to their plate is definitely not the right move.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think it's nice though to have the option. Like I feel like what they should do is there should be a spec that's maybe like Vengeance right now, but like a little bit less. And then most other tank specs should have maybe a little bit more than they currently have in terms of stops, but not much more. Like it should be, I don't know. I don't think the Blood DK one is very good though. I don't know what you guys think, but looking at that Gorfian's Grasp one, I was just kind of like, this doesn't seem like it's actually making the spell do much more of what I want it to do, right? Like I feel like you use that often to move mobs. Often, like not everything is necessarily even getting hit by it as well. If something's really far away, it can be hard to use. Like if you used it like a Sigil of Silence to start a pull, I guess you can. But like if you're a Blood DK on pull, you usually need all your globals to live and stuff.
Yeah, I remember reading the I remember reading the grip thing where it's like, oh, well, when you grip something, it does less damage to you. And then I was like, well, now it's fine, guy. Oh, and also they added a new like quality of life thing where when you grip anything, you get a bone shield charge. So like if you mass gripped, you would just cap your bone shield
That
at
is
any
nice.
point for free. And then I was thinking about like, yeah, guys, it's fine. You just go into a pack and then mass grip to yourself. And I was like, dude, that's the fastest way to instantly die. Like as a Blood DK going in with no runic power, just like, all right, grip them up. You're just so dead. But it would be a nice the bone shield. I love those changes, man. I feel like Blood DK is gonna be so fun. Saw someone makes a disingenuous tweet. There was like someone that was like, oh, Brewmaster had its binds reduced, but look at all these things you have to bind for Blood DK. And they listed every potential bind you could have on Blood DK, even if you took both parts of a choice node. There was like 4 ones that were like all choice nodes of something else you would never take. And it's just like they were trying to make the case that like Blood DK is going to be too bind heavy. Not sure about that.
Yeah, anyone where's the choice nodes as well. Those ones like auto. You don't even need a macro. They like auto change for you anytime there's 2 actives on the same choice node. So that's free.
And sorry, I jumped out of the podcast a little bit a second ago. You guys probably saw that while you were talking. I have a for people who are listening to the podcast. I have a recovering doggo. She had to get surgery yesterday, and then I was able to bring her home today. So she's back here. I had her out of the room when this started because I didn't want the other dogs are kind of hyped that she's home, but she wanted to come in. She has a little cone on. She hates the cone. And she's like way too big for the cone. Like they do not make cones big enough for her. So like she like falls out of the cone. But yeah, she is doing well, fully recovered. Very expensive surgery. She ate a hand towel. Like who does that? Who just like sees a hand towel and they're like, I'm gonna try to digest that, right? crazy stuff.
Well, they have to like cut it out of her.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think the surgery they call it is like just like a foreign body removal. They do this for humans too. Like if anyone just ingests something that you're not going to be able to go through your. So yeah, like the towel just got up in her digestive tract. She wasn't seeming good, and I took her in, got it scanned, and that's what it was. And yeah, but she's it was pretty pricey, but it's all good now that she's healthy.
That is good. I'm glad she's
good to hear.
okay. Yeah.
Yep, good doggy. Shout out all the people on Twitter. I asked for some dog pics the other day when I said I was taking her in, and I got like 500 dog pics or something. So, shout out you guys.
Shout out the dogs.
Yep, shout out the dogs. There was also one other interesting beta change as far as like overall gameplay is concerned. They made an AUG change that I think was really, really interesting.
Yeah.
So if you guys have ever heard us talk about AUG before, I don't know if I've actually ever done this on the podcast, but the issue is the delta between the skill floor of an AUG in Raid specifically and the skill ceiling is like 10 times bigger than any other spec in the game. Like it's so massive, and a lot of it has to do with stuff that Blizzard has been working on reducing, which is like out of game tools. So like what we have people doing in progression, for example, is figuring out exactly when people are using their cooldowns, at which point exactly who is doing the most damage at every ebb and might window, right? And then like they have weak auras where it like lights up those characters' frames when those are the classes that have all their stuff up, so our AUG evokers know who to give prescience to. And they made two really good changes. Number one, apparently they're adding something in game where basically you can turn this on or off. People's frames are going to glow in game default UI if they have their main cooldown up, which is awesome. That like already is super good. And then also, prescience no longer requires a target. So you don't have to like pre-prescience someone necessarily. When you just press prescience ever, it will just smart target someone with their cooldowns up.
So yeah, you already could press prescience with no or an enemy target, and it would already like choose a DPS player if possible.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
But now it's going to choose one in their CDs if possible as well.
Yeah, the reason I didn't know that is because you probably really didn't want to do that.
Yeah. No,
So,
I would do that in my weeklies, and it was bad. It's a lot worse, but it's a lot easier. So
yeah. So I don't think this does anything to make AUG more fun, or I guess less bad for the high end. Like if you still want to optimize AUG at the highest levels, you will still not use this, and you will because, for example, giving someone prescience when they're already in their cooldowns is like, in a way, it's like too late, right? You'd want that person to have ebb and might and all that stuff before they popped off. In a lot of cases. But that, to be completely honest with you, that involves very few people. I'm just going to go ahead and say that, like, I don't know, 95% of AUG evokers who got cutting edge, by the way, so people who've killed Mythic Farak, I bet 95% of them don't do this crazy wizard shit where you just, like, find the best person. I think they probably just buff the 4 best players of their guild, or whoever the 4 like best DPS seem to be on the early pulls of that fight, and they just send it the whole progression. They just buff those people, right? Outside of like very rare circumstances, and that's fine, by the way. And those people are going to feel massively better. Their job is going to be so much easier. It's going to be so much closer to how this class plays in dungeons, which is significantly more fun to play than this like whack-a-mole raid situation. So I think overall was a really, really good change by Blizzard. I just think they need to fix log hooks immediately, I would say.
Yeah, raising the floor for AUG is, I think, a nice goal as well, because it does kind of suck right now in like you're pugging a +4 keystone and you're playing an Augmentation Evoker, like it's kind of beans. I don't know. Now this change doesn't affect the dungeon experience basically at all, but the raid experience is definitely improved by this. Like if you're in a normal raid and you're casting prescience with the boss targeted, like, yeah, you'd be better off if you were always presciencing people before they press their CDs and then hitting ebb and might, and then they have ebb and might for their whole CDs. But you're definitely a lot better off presciencing people who are in the middle of their CDs rather than a random person. Like that is going to be a gain on average. So it's nice. Yeah, we just want to pair that with like lowering the ceiling for the, giga min-max
Yeah, I mean,
Aug
I
play.
think that's an issue, but I don't think Blizzard wants to get rid of that. Like, I think they like that there's that level to it. It is deeply unfun.
Yeah,
but
the problem is like I don't know any Aug evokers that have enjoyed doing that. Like the turnover rate for auging in my guild has been astounding.
Oh,
given
really?
that there's the like spreadsheeting stuff that you have to do. Like the 3 people have done it in my guild so far, and all 3 are not doing it next expansion. They're like, this is stupid. I'm not doing this.
Oh, speaking of Aug too, and Dorky, maybe you can answer this. Is there like, again, I'm not playing this season, so I'm not hearing the cries as loud as they maybe actually be crying right now. But not as loud as I heard them in season 2. Isn't there like a Godcomp situation going on right now? Like there's like one comp that's just definitely way better than all the other ones.
Yeah, for the most part, yes. I mean, I do think there's like some flexibility, but part of it's because it's season 4, so like we're not seeing the whole effect of people who are giving up their character late, or people who are playing their raiding character, or people being able to reroll pretty easily. Because
Oh, so you think people are playing
they're
more Fodom because it's only a season where you would focus on Mythic Plus anyway?
right. No, I
Definitely.
mean, well, it's more about like we see it becoming an issue much earlier because of that. Because like in previous seasons, we might have seen other
Oh,
tanks
someone,
doing better at the
yeah,
beginning,
yeah.
or like or like
Yeah, Blood
like
DK
maybe
was
like
doing a lot of keys at the start of season
Someone
3.
leaves Mythic progression at like 10 eye levels higher than everyone else. They do some high keys, and like who would have guessed they're fucking slamming keys, right? Because the difference between the best class and that class is not 10 eye levels. So I see.
yeah, or it just happens to be the class that they're playing in raid, right? So it's like, all right, I have a geared prop out, and I might as well be playing it.
Yeah.
But there definitely is like a Godcomp situation right now, and it's particularly because of all the raid buffs. Like honestly, I don't see how they could really fix this without changing the raid buffs situation. It is actually really
Yeah,
bad.
before we go into raid buffs, I was watching a few streams. Are you sure Shadow Priest wouldn't be good enough without Fort? Because that thing's doing a lot of fucking
No,
damage.
no. Well, Shadow Priest would be the exception, right? But like even then, like that raid buff's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
I was talking more along the damage ones, like Mark of the Wild, Chaos Brand, and whatever the hell it's called, Arcane
I mean, even
Intellect.
then,
Arcane
like,
Intellect is the most egregious one too.
I feel like Chaos Brand isn't that bad. Like, bro, if another tank had the stops that Vengeance has right now and Vengeance didn't, you wouldn't give a shit about Chaos Brand. You'd bring that other tank instantly.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
I
the
don't know.
Chaos
I mean,
Brand, like, because DPS are doing so much damage, like, Chaos Brand is a lot this season in particular. Because,
yeah, it is
the
a lot.
amount of damage the DPS are doing relative to the amount the tank is doing it's a higher ratio than usual. So the tank's raid buff is a higher
Why is that?
DPS thing than usual. I think just end of expansion scaling. DPS scale more per point of item level than tanks do in damage. I think by more than the ratio
Yeah.
is at the start of an expansion of tank DPS to DPS.
Speaking of raid buffs, by the way, I think there might be a new raid buff that hasn't been announced, and it's kind of always been in the game, but it's going to be a raid buff in the next expansion. I think Ancestral Vigor from Resto Shamans. So if you have 2 Resto Shamans, you cannot have 2 stacks of Ancestral Vigor on someone. It'll just refresh it. So only 1 Shaman brings you the benefit of it. It is 10% max health on everyone that is on. And previously, Resto Shamans have not been very chain heal centric. They have been like Riptide and Healing Wave and very, very like spot healy centric. And all their AoE healing stuff like Cloud Burst and their cooldowns, that stuff didn't put out Ancestral Vigor. Now, Resto Shamans in the expansion are like chain heal machine guns. They're just chain healing permanently, right? I think if we see, I don't know all about this, but if we see Resto Shamans, which I think some people have said it's decently feasible to have like really, really high Ancestral Vigor uptime on the raid, or very, very high Ancestral Vigor uptime whenever it is dangerous. That is that's as good as any raid buff could be, right? 10% health on your whole raid. You absolutely need that if you want to play at a highness level, which would only, if that theoretical scenario were to be true, that would only leave specifically Ellie Shaman as the only spec in the game now that doesn't have something that puts
That
them
would
in a
be
raid
great.
other than their balance. So, unfortunate.
Yeah, I do feel like the defensive raid buffs are the like main offender for M plus, which Ancestral Vigor would qualify for that, I guess, in a future season hypothetically.
Well, the problem is like Arcane Intellect is both offensive and defensive. That's how key it
Yeah,
is.
Oh.
'Cause,
but like look
your
look at the
healer
other
heals
specs in
for
the
so
Oh,
comp,
much
right?
more.
your healer stronger?
Yeah,
The
it's
other
way
specs,
stronger. Like,
Would you say exactly 5% stronger?
well, like it's hard. Like 5% not exactly because you're also buffing the Aug,
Aug,
and the Aug is also
yeah.
like also buffing the healer even more. So I don't know what exact numbers, but it's like imagine having 15 item levels on your weapon from just a mage.
Yeah, I mean it's nice, but like I think that the fort buff, the Mark of the Wild, the Black Attunement, like I feel like those are the
Yeah.
three that are kind of irreplaceable in the comp. Like if you remove one of those pieces, then all of a sudden all of the spells turn from green to red on that site that checks if you're getting one shot, right? Like
Yep.
that's I feel like those are
Well,
Yeah.
the
Okay,
crucial parts.
so are these an issue in general in like raiding? I don't think so. Obviously, because there's just much more people. I mean, you could argue that raid without raid. Well, even then, raid without raid buffs, there would just be another thing you would bring people for. I think, but I, I'm interested in the reason that defensive raid buffs are so particularly powerful in Mythic Plus being the primary reason. I still feel like it needs to be talked about more, that I think the way that Mythic Plus scales is just wrong. Like, it's kind of been an issue for multiple seasons now. You run into the only thing that is stopping you from timing said key is being able to live the damage. It has nothing to do with the timer, right? At a certain point. And
yeah,
I feel like that just changes the entire outlook of this. If what does Mythic Plus keys scale by 10% per level? 10% mob health and also 10% the damage they do to you?
yeah.
So those just shouldn't scale at the same level, right? Like the mob health should scale harder than mob damage because clearly multiple key levels earlier, you're just looking to like, dude, if you had to like really like beat these keys, you weren't worried about living as much. You were actually just like, let's see if we can even time this key without like you wouldn't be thinking about raid buffs and maybe even class balance the same way at all, right?
Yeah,
You'd
this
be
expansion is so fucked with that.
Yeah, I think it's less
Like-
bad than it was in season 2, but season 2 was the worst offender at this, right? Where it's
So,
just like you can two chest the
season
28
2
and deplete the 29 because you can't beat the boss.
Yeah, because season 2 was because of augmentation. Like augmentation basically undoes all of Blizzard's errors of his expansion. Like augmentation is literally the only reason why we're even able to push keys to their limits.
Yeah, but that
Because,
sucks
like,
though, because then you
yeah,
need
because-
an
yeah,
AUG
exactly.
to
I
be able
didn't-
to do the content. That's dog shit.
Right. Because like people are always wondering like why AUG is even good. Like AUG is actually not even good for M plus. Like it's straight up a DPS loss. We saw it not being played in MDI. Even when you're playing 4 DPS, AUG is questionable. And literally the only reason people are bringing AUG so much right now is because of their defensive capabilities, and we like highly value defensive capabilities way more than ever before, and it's actually fucking ridiculous. The amount of one shots right now is insane. I was doing a 15 Uldaman last week, which isn't that high of a key, like 15. Like yeah, it's like a moderately high key, but like people are pugging that pretty regularly, and people are just getting one shot left and right on the last boss. I had an augmentation in my group. Now, granted, this guy was using a Sark cloak. I don't fucking know why the Augmentation Evoker was using a Sark cloak.
That is so
Probably right off of
demonic.
what-
Good lord.
Yeah, like it's one
Dude.
thing if it's like, all right, it's a hunter using it, but
Sark
it's a
cloak-
fucking augmentation.
Sark cloak this patch, something has been missing. I don't know what did we talk? Was this last
We
time
did.
on the PoddyC? brought
We
this
talked
up?
about this
No, like-
on the not on the
how?
PoddyC, but on one of the raiding dungeons
But-
roundtables
Oh
randomly.
yeah, which are really fun.
Yeah.
That, bro. Like in season 2, everyone was smart enough to not say, "Hey, get this cloak," because it was like clearly the trade-off of the health for the damage is not even close to worth it. It is bad. If you are doing progression content in which you care about the outcome of it, and you completing said thing will either improve your character, kill a boss you haven't killed, or increase your IO or whatever, right? Like progression content. If you are wearing that in progression content, you are a fool. like you were an idiot. Like it is a terrible decision. But the reason people are doing it is because like all the Wowhead BIS lists, which I guess people just open for season four stuff. You know, you're like, I'm gonna play season 4. Let's see what are the things I'm gonna spend my dinar on or bullions or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get this cloak. Like, nope, no shot, man. That thing is bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think people would have done it in season 2 if there was a bullion vendor in season 2 as well. It's just in season 2 you had to kill Sarkareth to get it. So like, are you putting on a normal Sarkareth cloak or a heroic Sarkareth cloak, or are you capable of killing mythic Sarkareth? Because the population that can kill mythic Sarkareth is a pretty small one, and that population can probably make a better decision on the trade-off of the cloak. And the cloaks are going to get assigned to the people that it's like actually good on first, right? Like the warlocks.
Do you think
or
that
whatever.
the tooltip is not super obvious that like it's actually that much of a like if it showed you how much percentage health you lost, you might be like, I'm not sure about that. But just the fact that it doesn't have stam, you're like, well, how much stam's normally on a cloak, you know?
Yeah, like it should say like plus 3,000 stamina, minus 3,000 stamina. Like that should be what it says on the cloak, because the cloak normally has the 3,000 stamina or whatever, right? Like that's.
Well, yeah, I guess if you were to look
crazy.
at a cloak and just not even look at it, you'd be like, oh, it's the same. Nothing's missing here.
I bet there are a lot of people who genuinely have that experience. Like, well, you know, it's not like there's a negative line there. It's just a. Actually, what they should do, it should say -1 stamina. That's what that cloak should have said. If it was just -1
exactly.
stamina.
That's all it needs to say.
Then that keys you in like, oh, this is a cloak with negative stamina instead of positive.
So in season 2, it was you lost 8% max HP by equipping that cloak. Is that number still right? Do you guys know what the number is?
Yeah, I went from 1.4 to 1.3k, so that sounds like 8% when I was looking at it. Yeah.
Close. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
close.
I mean, a wildly bad decision. 8% health is so good. Like, so good.
Yeah.
Especially in this type of season where literally everything's one-shotting you on like 20-second intervals. It's actually insane.
Yeah. It's funny as well because people will make this argument about the cloak, and you'll tell them like, no, don't wear that cloak, it's bad, and they'll assume you're talking about the fact that it steals stats from your friends. It's like,
Nope,
no, that doesn't matter at all. That's fine. You're stealing their lowest stat. You're stealing a very small amount of it. You're gaining a bunch
That
more
part's
of your
good.
favorite stat.
That part
like
is a good effect.
Yeah. But it's just a cloak that has hidden no stamina. That I mean that stamina is like the trade-off is so bad. You have some embellishments this expansion, right? Like you can get those slimy boots that are like -300 stamina for a massive damage proc. Like that's a decent trade-off. We can talk about how maybe that stamina is an underrated downside of those things. This is 10 times as much stamina being lost on your cloak for a much smaller benefit. I guess you don't have the opportunity cost of losing an embellishment, but still, it is a crazily bad deal.
Yeah.
Do not wear that cloak.
Yeah, this is your sign. If you guys see someone wearing that cloak, one of your friends, let them know the good news so they stop griefing themselves. Or if you're just someone...
There should just be a weak aura. No, there should be a weak aura that, like, it'll automatically inspect the group, and then if anyone has a Sark cloak, it immediately leaves the group.
Ooh, I love it. Yeah,
everyone needs this weak aura.
I have like an enchant checker weak aura on Ready Check where it snitches who doesn't have all their enchants, but I need to add that to, snitch if they're wearing that cloak.
Oh, something else that I heard people kind of popping off about, and I actually haven't even looked at this yet because I've been so busy this week, but apparently there's like some items for the new raid that were shown, and like there's more like, not like gimmick items, but like potentially really powerful like proc items. Have you guys looked at those at all?
I looked at the raid trinkets and the one very rare item in the raid several weeks ago. Now I've since heard that they've changed some of the effects of the trinkets. I haven't seen necessarily what you're specifically looking at then.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. I just know people were popping. It might be a weapon.
There is a like fist weapon it's the very rare from one of the bosses.
Yep, it is from Rosson. Nope, that's a cloak. Where is it? This boss, Nexus Princess.
Yeah.
One-handed fist weapon that double rolls the like one secondary with crit, and then it also, when your attacks have a high chance to apply a dot to your target, dealing 80k shadow damage over 10 seconds, and then it has like a 2-piece or whatever. But I just do you guys like stuff like that just in general? Are you guys cool with like they've done a few of them this expansion, right? Like there was the Guardian Druid, like Polearm and Aberrus, right? I think there was maybe like a caster one this raid or something. Are you guys in general like okay with that? I know I heard a lot of takes of people saying that they think that's too much and like things like that are too OP.
So kind of like different reason for disliking it, but I swear I hate all these kinds of proc stuff recently. Because like if you're just trying to CC mobs or like if you're trying to like, I swear to God, these procs always either ninja pull shit or they break CC or they like break your invis or something. There are so many random obscure problems with these like multiple on procs. Like we have to deal with the helm proc versus the Kosh procs. People are dying to their proc sometimes. Like I've seen deaths where people legit died to the tick of their Vikash. Or like sometimes they rip aggro too. Like if I'm just grouping up a pull and then the rest of the druids dotting things up and Vikash procs, boom, 200k hit, instantly rip aggro and die. There are just like so many random little things that cause nuances that I dislike, but it's like kind of a random problem compared to what you might be thinking.
Yeah, I agree. That's the biggest problem. Like, I don't have that much of a problem thematically with just some budget for like items being put into the damage effects. It does seem like Blizzard often over budgets those. Like they just make those items OP. Like Thorncaller Claw, Aeronog Ring, all the Fire Act weapons, all were good. I guess maybe there are.
I think the one I've enjoyed
ones.
the most was Diver's Folly. Like Diver's Folly was actually cool, right? Like that one felt great, and it was like fun, and it had like it had like niche uses, but it was like cool as fuck.
The Rashok weapon.
All these
also,
other ones
like,
are just like whatever.
That one's fine. Like that's an active, right? It's like you press it and then you pulse damage, and like depending on what spec you're playing, if you're a brewmaster, you can like game it with certain abilities triggering multiple fire waves and stuff, and like that's kind of cool. But yeah, I guess the regular damage proc ones, I don't have that much of a problem with them, but I think that them breaking stuff is annoying when they're dots, and I do wish that they maybe made them a little bit less damage overall.
Well, I was thinking about this a bit, and it made me. I wonder if I was just like, or people doing this are just like being the old guy at their lawn, just like yelling at new things. Because I remember when Trinkets. So Trinkets used to be largely just like they were stat sticks, or they were like on use things, and that's it. Like it was like strength mastery or like mastery with on use strength or vice versa. Like that was 90% of Trinkets, and people liked that. They're like, it's simple, I get it, I know what to do. And then like they started cooking with Trinkets a little bit, and the backlash to that was real. They're like, I don't like this, I just wish I had a stat stick, give me a stat stick. And I think there are, like, I think with dungeon Trinkets especially, there pretty much is a stat stick you can get like every patch if you want. It's like somewhere. But I think that was overall a good thing. Like, I think Trinkets are way, way cooler now. I like that Trinkets are the way they are, right? I think they could probably have a higher hit rate on them. And also, like, specific, like, sometimes end boss raids will have, like, these very intricate trinkets. Like, there's nothing more something you can just bet on happening than killing a raid and having the last boss have, like, this super crazy intricate trinket that is so bad that, like, no one would ever want it, Like, that happens every time. So like I don't know. That's the only thing I'm thinking. Is like maybe it's just cool, and I'm used to weapons that just have stats on them, and I'm just old guy yelling at from my lawn that everything is new.
I don't know. I think they definitely overcook on some of these trinkets because I'm gonna be honest, there are a lot of Dragonflight trinkets that I don't know what they do still. Like I think there's
probably just because they aren't good, right?
Well, that and also like they're just kind of convoluted. Like that one caster trinket from Vaults. You guys know what I'm talking about?
There's
there's
page
so many.
one,
Invokers Codex, and like Spiteful Storm. I actually don't even know what any of these trinkets are.
Yeah, but like the thing is, like if they were, but like if they were good, you would, right? Like I think the only trinkets that I know this expansion are the ones that I equipped and used because some fucking robot told me that they was the best one. Like I would totally know what the other ones did if they were the best one.
Yeah.
There definitely are a lot of garbage trinkets as well, right? Like there's like the game's equipment trinket from Algathar or whatever, right? It's like,
and none of us heal. None of us heal, but from what I can tell, healer trinkets have like they're either unbelievably bad. Like I know in some cases, like it could give you 50 times more mana than it says it gives you, and it would be bad. And like it was just left like that forever. Like they just don't understand mana values or something. And then sometimes they're just like you wear them until they nerf it, including passing expansion boundaries. Like that's how wrong they get it with that. So like and then tank trinkets, they've kind of just they just level with like, okay, we're just gonna give you a cheat death trinket every pack, every
really
patch.
all the same shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
or
it's
like
kind of hard to cook
this
up
one
a
gives
tank
you a
trinket.
shield when you click on it. It's like, okay, yep, that's good.
I mean, the Legion had some really good trinkets. I actually really miss and loved Legion trinkets.
Yeah, Legion
I'm
had a
just
lot of
thinking
all-timers. But so
yeah,
many,
like
like
Luminous
Dragonflight has
trinket as a
Grief
tank
Torch. It has
Yeah, Great Torch is cool for sure.
yeah,
But-
I guess Grief Torch is my favorite by a lot.
Not a whole lot besides Grief Torch.
I was just thinking of one of my favorite tank trinkets of all time, and I went into Dungeon Journal just to look it up, and it like totally wouldn't translate to today's game. Have you guys ever heard of Indomitable Pride?
No.
It's a
No.
tank trinket from Dragon Soul, and it just reads: attacks which reduce your health below 50% grant you a physical absorb shield equal to 50% of the damage done to the attack for 6 seconds, and then that can only trigger once a minute.
Oh.
Sounds like awful, right?
Yeah.
But it was good. Like that's just like how tanking worked back then. Like like certain fights, like something like that would be good. But that was an era before the old cheat death trinket existed. Also, dude, I remember when they first you guys were talking about like how tank class discords will just say you do everything for damage. I still remember, especially doing the race before it was streamed, the amount of tank discords that would like quote what me and Ben were using for some raid fight, and they'd be like, oh, they were both using the cheat death trinkets, and some like tank Discord admin would add us and be like, yeah, it's because they're bad. It's really because they're bad, and like really like if you look at the damage loss, there's just no way you'd ever wear a cheat death trinket. Like meanwhile, they don't even know what these bosses look like. They literally have never been streamed yet. They have no idea how likely it is that you are to die. And I just find it so funny now that cheat death trinkets are now commonplace, and like if you have access to one, it's just like definitely a better option if you're doing any difficult content. That is times have changed. People have learned.
Yeah, I'm actually not too sure what their stance is on cheat death trinkets nowadays, but it was definitely a taboo type of trinket back then, and like for quite a long while too, like maybe even up to Shadowlands.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? Because like I remember it was always like, oh, stamina gems are bad, right? Like the level 1 experience is like, oh, I'm a tank, I want stamina, right? Like stamina is the tank stat. I should get stamina. And then the class discords would rightly come in and they'd be like, oh, stamina is actually not that good for you. Like there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't invest into stamina. You shouldn't jam into stamina and stuff like that. And part of learning to be a better tank is having that experience of like, oh, I shouldn't just stack as much health as I possibly can on all my and wear all these stamina tank trinkets, right? Necessarily. Yeah. But then that unfortunately carried over into like, oh, this cheat death trinket. You know, you could wear a trinket instead that's giving you 5% more DPS. Like, yeah, just don't need the cheat death trinket. Just don't die. Like that sounds like a similar logic, but it's actually so cheat deaths are just so broken. Like
they're so broken.
I cannot overstate.
It turns out the whole just staying alive when you're doing like the highest possible key you can do and doing this massive pull is just like sometimes that just doesn't happen, you know? Yeah. And then like tank deaths you can't recover from a tank death. It's over, right?
There's basically no content that is tightly enough tuned that you're going to need that tank DPS from swapping their trinket that is not also tuned such that your tank is going to die like 5 more pulls out of your 200 pulls of progression or whatever on a boss or the equivalent at M+, and that's going to cost you more, right? Like that's almost always going to cost you more. You can optimize more damage than that difference with those extra pulls that you're saving.
That's been the case since X expansion, probably since the beginning of WoW, by the way. That has never changed, and back then it was like, you're just a fucking idiot if you do this. Actually, I'm interested how you guys feel about that. Like, some tanks have cheat deaths, some DPS have cheat deaths, they have cheat death trinket. How do you guys feel about just cheat deaths in WoW in general? You think it's good? You think it's good that like some people can have it and some people don't? Do you think it's good that every tank, every patch just finds the quickest way to get a cheat death trinket and just uses it, you know? I feel like it's kind of bad.
I like that tanks have cheat death just because it lets you limit test more instead of just like there's always risk behind doing things, right? It's like, all right, you know, like maybe I shouldn't try this, or like maybe I shouldn't try taking this hit without, you know, X defensive.
I agree on tanks.
Just to like feel it out, but having that extra safety net, having that cheat death, having that protection just like lets you be a little bit more adventurous, you know, lets you limit test more.
And then you also like you kind of get some feedback from the game that like, oh, you're actually dying without wiping the raid or without, you know, wiping your M+.
Yeah, you would have died here.
Yeah, that feedback, like I was doing some keys yesterday, and whenever that happened, I was like, oh, I need to be more careful,
Yeah,
right?
well,
Like,
if this hurts, yeah.
yeah. But actually, the problem was I wasn't getting healed in those keys, but in a normal key,
Oh
that
no,
would have
you
been
were
the
getting
feedback.
omega juice,
No,
man.
I
The
wasn't
healer
getting
was
any heals, man.
insane in
Not a
that
single
key.
heal was coming in.
I was watching that healer was so
It's a
good.
bad day for healers, man. Also, like spatial paradox is gone, which is something that, like every single healer
Wait,
left
spatial's
last raid.
gone?
Yeah,
Well,
basically, it's on a choice
it's a
node with
choice
time
node
spiral.
with time
So,
spiral, yeah. And it's
done.
also, I think
Yep.
they nerfed the CD.
And they nerfed the time of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
they nerfed it and also made it a choice node with something in almost all scenarios significantly better. Yeah.
But Dev Evoker can take it now, and Pres Evoker as well. So you
They
know.
could if
Yeah,
they
but
wanted to
who
not
cares
have
about
time
them?
spiral, which they wouldn't.
Yeah, but those are also not real specs because augmentation.
They
exists.
can be real specs, dude. This is what I'm saying with Aug, man. Like they just have to fix that defensive tuning, dude. Aug is so hated, and I totally get it, bro. The biggest mistake they made with Aug is allowing the log hooks to never work. That has caused so much damage, bro. If logs just worked, it would be just if they were really good or really bad. That's it. It wouldn't matter how much they were supporting other people if it was properly accounted for. And by the way, this isn't some crazy thing to ask for. They worked. Like when Aug came out, they worked perfect. They were like exactly right. And now they've just for how long? Since 10.1.7. Since 10.1.7, they've been completely broken. Probably more than 6 months. That's crazy, man. I feel like that is just adding so much animosity from the community. And it's like, yeah, Aug's always going to be good. I mean, I don't even know if that's true. It'd be easy to quantify how good they are. Right now, you want to know what's crazy? They're probably 20% better going into any raid than the literal best DPS in the game will be to bring 1 or 2 Augs if you're playing them properly. They'll probably be 20% better.
Well, but
than
they could
best
adjust
thing.
that, right? Like, is that number adjustable?
Yeah, but if they nerf that number so that liquid Augs with the liquid spreadsheet auging the right targets are now as good as another DPS, they are going to be so bad in regular content. Like everybody
Correct.
else is going to look at Augs and be like, this class absolutely stinks.
And they'd be
Because-
right.
Well, but
And-
that's
yeah.
fine though, because people would still play them for their defensive purposes.
Yeah, not if they're
only,
if they're
right? In that
like
case.
if they're griefing
Maybe,
you by
yeah.
doing half
Hey,
the damage.
I'm
of
not
the
saying,
but
they,
but
I'm
it's
not
kind of-
saying they shouldn't nerf Aug. Yes, they can nerf Aug, but you know what the
Right.
problem is, dude? If you go on Warcraft log statistics right now, you might be inclined to believe that Aug is the worst class in the raid because it shows because it's just not accounting for the damage it's doing, but it's actually the best and it's not close, right? It's like I just think the Aug log hook thing is a huge issue. I wonder. I mean, I know the guy who made the the burger guy, Graham Burger. He's the guy who like kind of pioneered Aug, and he just left right after this, and that's when all of this went to shit. I just wonder if they haven't like assigned anyone else to it, or as most things, I would assume we have no idea what they're talking about, what we're talking about, and this is like 10 times harder to solve than it just worked before. You know, I bet like someone's pulled their hair out trying to solve it. I'm sure, but like. Bro, I think that's like thing number 1. You can tune this to be good, but like you don't even know how can Blizzard know how good it is? Like how can Blizzard tune Aug? They have no idea how strong it is. They have internal tools and they use Warcraft logs. They use all the data available to them. I asked them this when I was there. Like if Aug is this impossible to like we know because we've done a million sample size tests with people who really know what they're doing, testing specific things before this raid came out. Like, I don't know if they do that, man. I think this helps. It hurts Blizzard's ability to tune that class too.
Well,
You know?
also like how good Aug is the answer to how good Aug is going to be like how good it is in Liquid and Echo, or is it going to be how good it is in like every other case that it's used in the game where it's substantially worse than that, right? Like that is
yeah.
it's tough because it does change its value so much in those spots. But I think they have said that they're working on the log hooks for War Within, so hopefully that
Great.
that happens, because I agree with you that not knowing is, I mean, like literally putting Spell Reflect on details went a long way to getting certain boss abilities nerfed back in BFA to not be reflecting back onto bosses for 20% of their health or whatever.
Ooh,
I think
speaking of
adding
that-
more info, like if raid buffs, for instance, if Chaos Brand could be attributed to the DH in details and on logs, that sort of thing would help a lot with raid buffs.
Speaking of that, they made a really good, or I don't know if it's good, but like a really interesting change. So I don't know, another change from this alpha. There's actually a lot of broad game design philosophy changes, or at least WoW design philosophy changes in this alpha build. Another one is they buffed like basically every healer cooldown in a dungeon environment that wasn't previously buffed. They like buffed them by 400%, made it reduce beyond 5 targets. It should roughly be the same in a 20-man raid. But they did that with, I forget the name of the spell. I'm going to make this up. Luminous Barrier. It's the choice node with Power Word Barrier, which obviously you guys know what that is. You always want to take that spell. But there was actually, and I didn't even know this because no one's ever used it. There's a choice node with Power Word Barrier that is a absorb that goes on people. So I guess the intention of it's like, oh, you can't stack on this fight or something. So you can now use this spread out absorb thing.
We've used that on, I swear my guild used that on one fight. I forget what it was though, but it was like comically undertuned for a while as well, but it's been buffed.
we've never considered it. Like Power Barrier it doesn't matter if you can't stack. That button is so insane. You find a way to stack, right?
Yeah.
So we've never considered it, but they buffed that by 400%. And I was thinking about that in 5-mans. That might make disc like way more relevant because like a lot of the times when you're using Power Barrier, you're using it to live one damage event most of the time in Mythic Plus. Not always. Sometimes it has better uses. Anytime Darkness would be insane in Mythic Plus, Power Barrier would also be really good. But for a single hit, like if that thing's buffed by 400%, that's probably going to be like bigger than a Mass Barrier. Like it's probably going to end up actually being like a entire health bar of Absorb or more, depending on tuning. And I think that could be like strat defining. You could use that to live something that you wouldn't otherwise be able to with just disc. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, the thing is, you probably could already live those with Barrier, but you don't have to stack for Luminous Barrier, right?
It'll be better than Barrier. Barrier's going to reduce your damage by 20%, and that thing is going to
but there's not many
effectively double your health pool, right?
There's not many mechanics that kill you by 140% of your health, not 100%, and are reasonably survivable over the course of a fight, right? Like, usually the Barrier... I mean, I agree with you, though. I mean, Luminous Barrier is better because you don't have to stack, and there might be fights where that's nice. And then also, you don't have to heal afterwards, and it does heal for more, so...
It'd be great for the healer Warcraft log farmers.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
It is so Powered Barrier turns out it does not actually get accounted for in Warcraft logs, and Luminous Barrier will make your healing go higher. So this is your official call to spec out of that button and go to the Barrier one.
The Priest Discord's already on it, I think. I can see them now.
They
Barrier's
recommend
bad.
it.
Yeah.
Does not increase healing.
Side note: they got to put Rally. Rally's got to get that treatment as well. I don't know what.
Did it
I don't know
not?
what the Warrior. No, it did not.
But Rally's terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm out here like saying because like there were so many years where like you didn't even care how much damage Warrior did. It was just like you brought as many Warriors as crazy damage events that wanted to kill you. You could use every 3 minutes. That was it. But now Rally is awful, man. Like I would never if a Warrior's in my raid, I don't even care that Rally's there.
Yeah.
It's completely insignificant. And on top of that, it's not better in dungeons. That thing could increase your health by 30% in dungeons, which would be 3 times better than it is now. And it would be you wouldn't bring a warrior for it.
Yeah.
It would be good. It would make your warrior feel relevant, but I don't know, weird.
How much is right now? It's like 10%.
It's 10% right now. Yeah.
10% on a 3-minute cooldown.
Yeah.
Doo doo.
It's I was doing some keys yesterday, and I was pressing my Rally to try and save my healer that was just always trying to get himself killed, and you wouldn't see his health bar change at all. It was like plus 20 health or something. Like he's still dead.
So many of Dratnos' guildmates and people he plays with get so many.
Growl was, or not Growl. Dorki was my healer yesterday. Growl was.
Dorki was your hero.
Being
Okay,
replaced by Dorki for some keys.
I was popping off, man.
You couldn't keep Growl. You couldn't keep Dorki, or you couldn't keep Dratnos alive.
No, he could. I never died except once.
Yeah, I was pumping.
Wait, why are you
healing? He was being a pro warrior. I've been on my healer arc. It's actually pretty fun.
I've been on my prop warrior arc. Yeah, it's been fun.
I will say, I can't believe I'm saying this. So just make sure to cut this from the podcast. But I actually healed on Pres Evoker in season 1 a little bit. Did I think 4 keys or something, and one of them was like the no-code offensive one, so I got to do the second boss, and that was actually super, super fun. Like healing is, and I feel like raid healing is even better. So I don't know. I think healers, even though we shit on them all the time, I think they have it pretty good. I think that role's pretty good.
Yeah.
Nah, I think most healers would disagree with that. Healers are not happy with healing right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think non-healers that are
but
trying healing are having fun this season because I've been healing some alt stuff for fun, and I've been like, oh, this is sick. But every healer I know is just down so bad. I think the War Within beta has also not inspired a great amount of confidence because it doesn't currently look like it's addressing the defensive
issues.
or
Yeah.
even it's not just a defensive problem. Like
We're
we
doing
talk
it
about a
again.
defensive problem a lot, but the healer power problem, like healers have the ability to take somebody from 20% health to 100% in such a small amount of globals, like one typically, that there's
Yeah.
just not room for gameplay in there because you just always the answer is target somebody with a spell that's going to top them, right? And there's not like, oh, how do I plan out these next 10 seconds to bring my group back to safety and avoid anybody getting killed?
I was watching a YouTube video recently about this. If you guys on listening to this want to watch and actually understand what we're talking about, there's a couple of really good videos. One by Thune. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's probably one of his most viewed videos, or at least recently. And then Automatic Jack has one, and it's something about like healing in Dragonflight isn't going to be fixed or something. And the reason I want you to watch this is there's something I can describe to you right now, but it will not actually hit home until you watch it yourself. And it will show you the raid frames of a mythic raid fight, hard raid fight, in one of them in Shadowlands and the other one in BFA. And you will notice that it's like a difficult raid fight, and the raid's health is like just kind of slowly ticking down. And then when healers pop cooldowns, it slowly ticks up. And it's like a much more linear battle of attrition to keep your group alive. And like there's times where the raid is at 30% as a whole, and then they go down to like 20, but you're not in danger because your healer just popped a cooldown, so you're all about to go up to like 70, right? And if you watch this after playing all of Dragonflight, you see them at 50% and then going to 40, and you're like, oh, the raid's wiped, right? Because like in Dragonflight, that's a wrap. Like if you're at 30% and going down to 20, you are dead. There is no like coming back from that. Like, because what it looks like in Dragonflight is you go down to 50, 40, 30%, and then one healer pops their cooldowns, and everyone is overhealed past their max HP for the next 10 seconds, right? And it's so not rewarding for healers. It makes every single small heal you choose to do feel less relevant. They make spot healing super OP, but at the same time in dungeons underwhelming. So like that mix is off. They've definitely
Yeah, you should see M plus healing. It's even more ridiculous. Like HP bars are literally going from 120 every like 0.5 seconds. And it's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
bad.
yo, up,
Yeah.
down, up, down, up,
And
down,
it's
up,
not
down.
fun. Like I get that it's not fun for them. It also makes the game way harder for everyone else because it's simply just more difficult to guess if you're about to get one shot than to see your health going down and then make a decision based on that.
Well, I mean, it's just straight up like impossible for the healer. Like not like mathematically impossible because like the only way the healer can possibly keep people alive is if they coordinate their defensives better. And in fact, me and Tettles and a couple others were talking about this because before you used to be able to just do semi-high keys with the buds, and you know, like it didn't matter who you were really playing with as long as you knew we were decent players. But nowadays, it's kind of hard to do that. You kind of have to be playing with a static 5 group because if you're not playing with the same people who are using the same defensives and CDs every single time for specific damage events, you just can't really get through those encounters. And it's like a major problem. Because for healers in particular, like they don't want to be managing every single person's defensives and cooldowns and trying to Tetris it all together. It just makes it such an unfun experience. And like I've been starting to notice that too when I'm like healing some of these pug keys. I've been like trying to heal higher and higher pug keys, and some of these encounters are like literally unhealable unless people are pressing the defensives at the exactly right time.
Dorky, what's that website called where you plug in the information and it tells you whether you can live the mechanic?
Not even close.
It's called Not Even Close. Should that exist?
The fact that it exists kind of says a lot, and it only
That's what I
started
mean.
existing last season, I believe.
Well, there
Yeah,
was
that's-
in BFA we had Just Heal Us, right? That you'd use for freehold first boss and freehold second boss. But
Yeah.
it was a much more isolated problem to like specific boss fights that one shot you at certain
Yeah.
key levels. This season it's
I
like
guess-
every single dungeon, yeah.
I guess what I meant is, should that ever be a thing? Like, should the difficulty of a dungeon ever be like, well, let me plug in some fucking values into this website before we start to see if I can live all these one shots? Like, should Mythic Plus ever even get to that point?
I think it should be fine in under some scenarios. Like, here's how I've always seen it. What should one shot you? Well, let's see. Like, avoidable damage, obviously, if you
Yeah.
let cast go off.
But
if
when have you ever typed in your name in that thing to see if you would live avoidable damage. Never. It's assumed that if you get hit by that, you die.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I
And
think
then
that,
like I also think
go
I
ahead.
was gonna say like I also think things that would occur once, like a minute or once every like 50% of the fight or so, like Xavius for example. Xavius when he does
50%.
Apocalyptic
Great
Nightmare at
example.
50, yeah, it's like all right,
That's
you
fine.
guys, here comes a major one shot. He's fucking charging up. He's doing this massive attack called Apocalyptic Nightmare.
And you
Like
need to use
surely you're
like
gonna
a
get one
ton
shot
of
by
your
this.
defensives. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
fine. But that's not the problem. Those have
yeah,
existed.
but that's
That,
not a
that
problem.
existed
Yeah.
in Legion. In Legion, that cast fucking ruined you. You know what you didn't do? Plug your fucking name and numbers into a spreadsheet to see if you could live that thing because you
Yeah, you
knew
just hit your
that
defensives.
mechanic was trying to kill you. So you hit your defensives, right? The difference is you didn't need a defensive for every single time the boss said a voice line. Right? Every time the boss thought about something, you weren't getting hit for more than 100% of your HP, right? I don't know. Like that kind of stuff should just stop scaling at a certain point, man. People will always have fun trying to find a way to do enough damage to time keys. The whole like at early key levels, it's about whether you can live all these one shots is dog shit, man.
Yeah.
Like it's just bad.
I don't think it's the end of the world if like a plus 20 key this season involves there being like 1 out of every 3 boss fights is going to one shot you with some of its stuff. Like I don't think that's the end of the world, but I do think if you're trying to do like a plus 16 key and you're concerned about getting one shot, I think that's too low for in this season's numbers
I mean, just like in
compared to the
puggable
damage
range in
check.
general. I
Yeah.
feel like generally speaking, if you're pugging, one shots should not be your concern.
It should be like world first keys, right? Like within a level of the top keys or whatever. That's the range where it's allowed for some bosses to sometimes be able to one shot you. And then like maybe there's one boss or bosses that have a 50% health cast that threatens you at the 5 levels below that range maybe, but nothing else. Yeah, I think it's, and I think you're right, you're absolutely right, Max, that just if they change the scaling factor to 5% damage and 10% health, like that would go a long way. To
Like it's not
just
like
making
it's
this
not like
better.
people are going to feel like there's no way to progress. It's not like it's just progressing random one shots is just super unfun, and fighting against a timer is sick. You know,
Yeah.
like that. Can we possibly time this? Oh, I think if we play perfect, we can time this, and then you're just locked in for the next 8 minutes. Like that's sick. That doesn't happen, man. Like you're just like, can we live to the end of this key? And then if so, binary yes. Okay, we timed it. It's just bad.
And something that used to
Also,
happen as
it's
well as
way
you pushed keys was you would pull trash onto bosses as the key got higher, right? Because like, oh, we got to time this, right? We got to find a way to make more
and it
DPS
makes
possible. So we've got to do a bigger
right,
pull.
right.
All right, we're gonna pull trash onto this boss.
Exactly, and then that's where you innovate,
Yeah,
right?
it's sick.
There's less innovation now because the innovation is like what's the most efficient pull we can do where we can realistically survive? And then like when you're actually trying to do times and it's less about like overtuned damage stuff, you think about maybe trying pulls that you can't realistically survive, but maybe you do this time and then you time the key. You know, that's fun, man. Like that's the kind of innovation that is it just happens a lot more when you have to actually navigate around the timer rather than just navigate pure survival. Yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to rant about that a little bit, but you know,
It's also way more restrictive on the meta if you're having to deal with one shots because like
100%. Yeah.
It
Go ahead,
does do some nice things for making it so target capped classes are a little bit less down bad, but that is, I think,
I mean, target
another problem you
capping
could
is
fix.
just-
Yeah.
Target capping's weird, but I also think that like if you look at damage in this game, this expansion especially is like historically well balanced. Like even in like season 3, I'm not playing in season 4, but in season 3, you could have brought like 15 classes to a key that would top. Like Ellie Shaman, just like random shit you'd bring into a dungeon group and it would just top your key. Great classes, right? That's not actually what you're looking for in a high mythic plus class. You're looking for, yes, a class that does really, really top damage, but you're looking for a class with a defensive toolkit so specific. Like, I think in season 3, wasn't it Rogue Mage something? So it was like maybe Aug, was it Aug Rogue Mage or Aug something? Like you played either a class that was stacking versatility and could press feint every time the boss screamed, or a mage with exactly 5 cooldowns, or a dragon with extra health and a cheat death, right? Like, there's only, even if like you could do less, even if that comp didn't do as much damage, you'd have to go to it at some point because there's no other way you'd actually live. So, I don't know.
All right, do we want to
Yeah.
move on to our Patreon question for this week?
Yes.
That's right, that we do. Our Patreon question this week comes from Clive, and it says, in the past, you all have said that weak aura packages for raids are bad because they're chock full of irrelevant things for most people. What would be your suggestion on how to prune this to make it more effective? Asking from the perspective of a ranged DPS player. Also, what are some underrated settings in WoW that you recommend, i.e. sound settings, graphic settings, etc.? Pod thanks.
Oh,
Max,
thanks
you
for
wanna-
the pod thanks
yeah,
at the
pod
end.
thanks. That's nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
What would be your suggestion on how to print it? Sorry, I was
So yeah,
one
weak
of my
aura
dogs.
packages.
Yeah, one of my dogs stole the bed. Reptar stole the bed from Ella.
That is
Which is
deeply.
fucked. I don't think he meant to do that, but like now she's just standing there and like she can't get on the couch. Okay. Actually, I think she might want to stand. She's coming over to get pet, but what would your suggestion on how to prune this, make it more effective?
Yeah, weak aura packages.
I would suggest actually just turning everything off. The entire weak aura package. Go into a raid fight and have everything off, and then die to something or see something that you feel like is important, and be like, I need to see that. And then you enable that weak aura, make it really loud, make it like a Ben weak aura where it just keeps doing boxing gongs over and over again until you don't die to it. And then that is the thing that's important. The issue with like the convolution of things going to you is like weak auras are supposed to help you, right? But like what DBM and bigwigs used to do, I don't know if they still do this, is they would come with a sound on every mechanic by default. So you just hear a bunch of like bings and bongs throughout the fight. And if you download our weak aura pack, which is crazy that it happens to us because when we give the weak auras to our raiders, we give them the weak auras off, except for a few very mandatory ones, like ones that work with every player and stuff like that. But like everything else is off, and they only turn the stuff on they want. But then when people download our weak aura pack, I believe they're all on by default. So like
Oh
I
yeah, that
check,
shit's a virus pack.
Yeah, malware.
So I check certain people's streams, and they're like, "Oh, using the liquid weak aura pack," and their UI just
liquid
looks
virus
fucking.
pack.
It looks fucking insane, right? Like it just has way too much stuff going on, and that's a problem in itself. But also, we've heard when they were initially disabled, I think people were just like, "This thing doesn't do anything." 'Cause
Yeah.
They just expect it to just work out of the box, So, yeah, I would just suggest turning all of them off, or maybe even what you can do is before progression. This is what our players do. Go through every boss and think about what actually kills you. For me as a melee, I really want to know when anything frontal or like ground hurting you things are going to happen, and that's like my main focus. Like if I can just have a little bit of extra coggy load taken away from me to know, like, have a sound when a frontal is going to come out or something, I'm just going to play better, right? So I make sure to go through every boss. Is there a frontal? Yes, no. Okay, enable weak aura for that. Step 1, right? And then you like look at some fight specific things and just think about what could kill you for your role and what you really need. And then even if something could barely help you, honestly, I would leave it off until you've done the fight, because sometimes you do the fight and you're like, you know what? It's super visual in game when that's happening. I totally don't need a weak aura. Because if something's visual in game and you don't need a weak aura, and then you have one, you're actually just either confusing yourself or you're diluting the like whole using sounds to help you thing, and you're actually making it work against you because you're teaching yourself to ignore it. So, yeah, that's all I gotta say. You guys have anything?
Yeah.
I'd also say look at what you're assigned to. Like if you're assigned to something, then maybe have a week for it. But if you're not, then who the hell cares? Like literally just completely ignore it.
Yeah.
But raid stuff aside, I would say like more specifically class weak auras and whatever weak auras you have for just like general gameplay. I've seen people have some absolutely atrocious weak auras, or people who are just overly tracking stuff. There are so many passives and procs and all that stuff that people do not need to track. Like, yeah, is it nice to know if you have your specific tier set up? For most classes, it's pretty irrelevant if you have it up or not. Yeah, as long as you're playing your gameplay properly, you will maintain it, and you don't need to be tracking some of these stuff. And also, for settings too, I actually have pretty specific settings in my UI command. Like if you check out my UI command, I actually have, because people used to ask me all the times for like, oh, what do I have for my settings? I actually have like some pretty optimized settings for it in terms of performance.
Yeah, TTV Dorki, by the way. check it
Yeah,
out.
you can sub to him, tier 3 sub, and get all of those benefits.
It was actually
Yeah.
completely free.
Yeah, but you
The
also get them
only-
if you tier 3 sub as well.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Same
yeah.
thing,
Also, yeah.
yeah.
Make sure you tier 3 sub too. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you get even more benefits.
Dude, tier 3 subs have. Why would you tier 3 sub to someone's channel? I feel like those have fallen off insane.
yeah,
Because you love them.
Yeah, but
well,
like-
you need
have
to
you never
you
been
need
a
to be a
tier 3
streamer
sub?
that like thanks the tier 3s more than the tier 1s and tier 2s. Like, and is like, wow, like if you're one of the streamers that's like, oh my god, wow, what a cool person, how rich and famous they must be to afford a tier 3 sub, right? Like then all of a sudden
yeah.
you're creating a psychological reason.
Yeah,
to
now
do
you
it.
can be rich and famous if you give it tier 3.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a status symbol.
I used to
I
on
want
my
to be a tier
stream.
3 sub.
I used to have so when we killed Mother in Old Year, Atlas screamed as loud as he possibly
remember
could
that.
the word yeet when he killed all those ads. And I had a sound file of that would at max volume that would only play when someone tier 3 subbed. But then it became a bit, and I know some of you guys are about to be like, "Oh yeah, a bit," but like became a bit where people would like gift a bunch of tier 3s so that sound would play for like a very long time. And that made me turn it off. Like you guys are like, what are you talking about? People are just chain gifting you $25, bro. It is not. I couldn't stream. Like you could not talk for 5 seconds without like basically like an air horn blaring into your ear. Like it was so bad.
Yeah, that's like the TTS.
Yeah.
relations.
Yeah, it's Pandora's box. Like you open it up, you're increasing your revenue, but you're decreasing your quality of life until you
Do you
turn it
guys
back
thank
off
subs
again.
on your stream?
Yeah, I still do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my stream is smaller than yours.
Yeah, I think having a somewhat smaller stream, like I thanked subs for a long time until it became like it would just ruin my
Yeah.
content if I did it.
It's
But,
I
like,
think
I
it's
also-
the same with followers, right? Like you want to stop thanking followers at a certain point, and then stop thanking.
Yeah, it's not that
subs.
you're not
Screw the
thankful
followers.
for
I've
them.
never thanked them before.
It's not
Yeah,
that you're
but-
not thankful for them, but if I'm doing like a 3-hour yapping stream, but every time someone subbed, I stopped what I was talking about, which also I'm really bad about that. I would lose my train of thought constantly just to like thank someone. It would make my content ass. So like I just don't want to do that. But also like Dorky, I think you doing it is super smart because like it also is a secret money hack.
Yeah.
Like when you thank subs, what you are doing is bringing up the concept of subbing in front of potentially thousands of people, and then they are more likely to Twitch Prime or sub if that because you talk about it. Like it's insane. Like you could see it on my stream. Like if you mention the word subbing for any reason, even if it's not like you'll just like get like 10 subs. It's just like a psychological thing. So like thanking subs is also infinite money hack too.
Yeah, specifically primes, because people are like, oh wait, I have a prime. I forgot all this.
Yep, I'll slam that Prime. There used to be an extension you could use on your Twitch that like just always reminded someone if they had a Prime sub up.
I
Those
think
are
there's
annoying as
I
hell,
think
though.
you still have that on your stream as well, like the little purple button that you click up and it's like it shows you.
I have that on
where
my
your current
stream?
Prime is. I think so.
No, let's go.
Yeah,
Let me see.
I'm not sure. Maybe
Working as intended. That's ideal.
it's good. But yeah, turns out there's a lot of infinite money hacks when you have a large stream with a lot of viewers, though. That's one of the infinite money hack. The hard part, get the stream with the thousands of viewers. Then the easy part is find a way to make a lot of money out of that.
Yeah, because after my dog surgery recently, I was thinking about like how do I make more money? I was like, okay, I'm just gonna play more ads. I looked at how much I made on ads in 1 month, and I was like, guys, what if we do this? You guys are all my viewers. I can pay for all of you to get Twitch Turbo, right? And I think that's like $8. Is it $8? Did they raise it?
They
Is
raised it.
more?
Yeah, it's like 11 or something a month now.
Okay, but
Oh,
11.
yeah.
Yeah, but all of my viewers buying them Twitch Turbo would be like $30,000. But like that would, if I ran 60 minutes of ads, like literally only ads on my channel and just did the ratios up, I would actually make money. So like it's kind of an infinite money hack scheming on Twitch thing. but
Holy.
yeah, it could
Yeah.
actually work. Like it
Well,
maths
get
out.
me in on this.
I don't.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you can actually play 60
yeah,
minutes of
you're-
ads an hour.
You're
like
limited.
it
You
won't.
could do like
let
10
you.
or something. Yeah.
Is it only 10?
I don't know.
It's
Some-
more than 10.
Okay, cable TV plays like 22, so surely they let you do that much on Twitch. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always crazy to me how much people complain about ads on Twitch as well when like I play like 3 or 4 and TV is actually 20 in a lot of cases.
Yeah, but okay, but a lot
Well,
of them
because
don't
it's
watch TV.
disruptive. That's why
Yeah,
it's
I
a little
get it.
different.
I wish Twitch
Yeah,
would
in
let them
TV, it's like
do a
there's
better
a
job of doing
stopping
like
point.
banner ones. Yeah.
Also, TV is indoctrinated. You watch TV now and you just expect their commercials. It's
I
part of
can't
what
do.
it is.
I like go back to my parents' house or whatever, and they're watching like a football game or
Yeah, it's rough.
something, and I start trying to watch the football game, and then 2 minutes later it's ads, and then like they kick one extra point, and then it's another 4 minutes of ads, and I'm just like, how does
It also
anybody watch this?
It
And
gives
it's
you
the same ads.
perspective. It gives you perspective on why all of that is worth so much money, though, because like you play an ad on Twitch and you're like, damn, that is dollars, and it's like, wait, and everyone complains about it, but they run 10 times more ads on TV and get away from it. I actually learned this when like some younger bucks joined my guild. So like when Fired Up first joined, I asked him what kind of movies he's seen, and it turns out he hasn't seen like any movies besides Airbud for some reason, and he like, yeah, he just loves Airbud, but like he hasn't seen any other movies. And I was like, why? He's like, I don't know. I just watch Twitch and YouTube. So like, I think a lot of people who watch like Twitch, for example, you're saying like, I don't get it. Like TV's.
I mean,
think
I
there's
get
a lot of
it.
people,
The disruptive thing as well is like, I definitely understand that. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, there's also a lot of people on Twitch who are not used to that on TV. But it is also, yeah, like sometimes you'll just be talking, and it's like running on a timer, and then like mid sentence something. I was watching the Race to World Last, and I had auto ads on, and some guild has been on it for 6 hours, and they ended up killing it, and ads played 30 seconds before they killed it. Brutal, right?
Yeah.
That's good.
That happened to me on
That
my
is-
Sark kill. It's like bosses
You
are
played
like
ads
5%
for your
HP.
Sark kill?
I had it on auto ads, man. I was there, playing my ads because at that time I was contracted to. I had to. There's no
Dude,
counterplay.
Growl used to manual play his for like
I
over
can't.
a year or so.
I
and
don't
I'm
have
like,
the
what
brain power
fuck?
to
That's-
manually press
yeah.
ads
No,
at
it's too
any
stupid.
rate.
Bro, that
Way
never
too
do that.
stupid.
Yeah. I mean, I
And-
personally, I would have actually kept them off. Except if you turn off your ad manager, you get a worse cut of your pre-roll ads as well. It's so messed up.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you only get
Interesting.
the good cut on the pre-roll ads if you're playing scheduled ads or if you have the ad manager thing on or whatever. If you're playing
Yeah.
at least
Well,
a certain amount per
Speaking
hour.
of indoctrinated, people are indoctrinated on Twitch now. So like a few years ago, if you were to play an ad, man, before they did the ad incentive program, your chat would lose their fucking minds because it was really normal for every streamer to not play ads because it was super annoying.
Yeah.
Right. And then like the ad incentive program came along, and honestly, they were super smart for this. Like, you would look at Twitter, like people would post their offers, and it would be like a ton of money. They were insane offers, and like their chat would be like, "Yeah, bro, fucking you do you, man, get that bag, yeah," stuff like that. And then like they're like, okay, but now that channel's run ads forever, and then they took more and more money away from that program. But now the streamers are looking at their paychecks, and they're like, oh, wait a second, that is
still worth.
that is a significant part of my paycheck. And my viewers don't complain about ads anymore because they want to support me because Twitch gave me this big offer one time and now have not done that anymore. And now it's like, so that's the thing. So Twitch viewers are indoctrinated in that too. Bro, when I play an ad nowadays, there's like 3 people who are mad about ads. When it was 2 years ago when I was with Team Liquid and running ads because I was contracted to before they did those programs, I think might have been the case with you too.
Yeah.
With Golden Guardians. Yeah, like, dude, they back then, man, when it was not that normal for now every stream on Twitch plays ads, all of them. And they're way less mad, so it's interesting.
Yeah, it's actually not even that long ago because that was like roughly when I started streaming. Like for the entire first year, maybe a year and a half, I didn't have any ads at all. And then the Golden Guardian deal happened, and that's when I started playing ads. And the exact same effect happened. Like I got to see the transition from 0 ads, nobody ever said anything, to lots of complaining, and then now it's like fairly normalized with
Yeah.
occasional complaints.
Like I tried to do the thing where every hour I would play them manually, get up and walk away so that people wouldn't be mad. And like I couldn't do it, but I tried because there was so much complaining about it. But now, yeah, you still get a couple of people, but it's not. You're right. They've absolutely like Twitch bought out the audience into accepting ads.
Dude, Dratnos, do you know that Dorki lost a world first end boss kill because of the ad incentive program?
What? No. A world
Dorki was
first
gonna
end
join.
boss?
Yeah, Dorki was gonna join our guild for Aberys, and he didn't because the ad incentive program was too OP, and you didn't get those offers at TL.
Damn.
Yeah,
That's crazy. I remember
freaking-
people left GG or like were threatening to leave GG or were disgruntled about it because you couldn't get the ad incentives in the.
Dude, I was mad.
Yeah.
Dude, I was seeing. I actually did the math. There was this person with this like random. I'm serious. I've never actually heard of this person before. I just saw like one of those tweets pop up on my algorithm, and it was this guy. I checked his viewership. He had like half the viewers as me. He did pretty well, and he streamed like 70% of the hours as me. And then he showed his offer for ads, and it was twice as much as I made in the previous month from ads with half the viewers and less hours streamed. It was insane. Like it was so much money. And I was never able to get one. And same thing with people who were GG. Yeah, it was sad. Definitely sad if you were on an org deal when those were going out.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember also being sad, but then I remember looking at it and being like, well, GG's kind of paying me a lot of money to do kind of nothing. So it probably is all still worth it at the end. Yeah. That was a good deal, by the way. I don't know how they...
You're not with GG anymore, right?
Yeah, they
No, GG's all
noped
gone.
out of esports.
It turns out that paying you for nothing was not an excellent deal for them, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, it worked out pretty well for me. I was liking it. I don't know why they stopped.
Oh, yeah, it worked out for me too. It was actually pretty fun to do with GG stuff.
So for a while, we were doing like videos. We would do like video content, but then like the guy who was doing the videos, who was ahead above us, like organized the videos, left, and then like one of the other guys above him kind of left, and so there was sort of nobody in the structure that really cared about us doing anything anymore. But we were still in there.
Yeah, that was for like months.
Dude,
on
that's
end.
so sick.
It was good. It's like those stories you hear about like companies just still paying somebody who quit 20 years ago or whatever. You're still getting a paycheck. And I was just like, I mean, to be fair, orgs get something out of you being on their Twitch team and like getting the org ad cut. And
If
Twitch,
they have a Twitch deal, did GG have
Twitch
a Twitch
did
deal?
Twitch did have one with GG, yeah, because Twitch has one with most of the big esports orgs because it lets
Not
them
anymore.
sell. Back in the day they used to, because it let them sell premium advertising, because advertisers would come to Twitch and Twitch would be able to be like, oh well, we have these professional orgs that are all streaming this amount of hours to this amount of viewers or whatever. Yeah, we can sell you this ad space. And so then Twitch told these orgs, okay, you got to get everybody on your team to stream with ads this amount of time. And that was how that ecosystem used to thrive. And then they figured out the ad incentive program, and that actually is much better.
Yeah, turns out they just got their whole site to play ads by tricking streamers into. They're like, hey, we'll give you this big lump sum payment basically once, but keep doing it. And then they did. It was smart. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this Twitch
look behind the curtain.
A little bit behind the curtain streamer thing. After the Patreon question about optimizing your user interface.
I feel bad for the like 50% of people that click off in the first 10 minutes or whatever, miss the meat of the episode here at the end.
Yeah, I wonder, is the Patreon question good to actually be at the end? Because usually it instantly sparks a new conversation that's very interesting, and it almost appears like once the Patreon question is happening, it is like a finite.
We should try the opposite.
Yeah, we can try it. We can try a Patreon question at the start next time.
Maybe like start or in the middle. Like if we ever
Like
feel
10
like we're
minutes
about to segue in the middle, just like, all right, we're just going to Patreon. Because you can always get back to that shit later. I just noticed that. It's like the past like couple episodes, we always do this.
All right.
So maybe that's the move. Also, I think I would ask actually if they found this interesting. It seems like every time we talk about random shit like that, they're actually like really interested in like the random happenings of all this stuff, like Dorki losing a world first race in a very unconventional way.
I think as well, anytime you ask like the audience, do you like this or do you want this? Like they're just always going to say yes. It's if we framed it the other way around of like, hey, do you enjoy these WoW talent discussions or whatever? They would also be like, yeah. Like is anytime you see somebody
What
on
do
Twitter.
You mean? You think they're
anytime
just
see
like
somebody on
yes
Twitter-
men? Like they're just
Yeah.
going to be like, yeah.
Have you ever seen somebody on Twitter do a poll where they're like, hey, what should I do this month? Should I stream a lot or should I stream a little? It always gets stream a lot, right? And people are like, I'm just trying to figure out what I should do. I'm just asking the audience, like, and then you put in some options. It's like everybody.
This is not the same as that.
It
right?
is the same as that. It's we're
Really?
here-
'Cause, like,
we're clearly
but
enjoying
we're not
these
giving
stupid
them
ass
any-
conversations.
We're
right?
not giving them any extra content. They're like, we're going to do this anyway. So it's like, they could be like, well, I'd like you to be more constructive about WoW. But like, you guys don't want to you guys don't want to hear us talk about WoW Remix again, do you?
That's
There's
fair.
no fucking way you want us to, guys, if we start our podcast next week and we're like, you see what they fucking did with the remix like we did this week? Like again? Like you're fucking out of here, right? Like there's no shot you want to listen to that again. So
All right, I changed my
know.
mind. You're right about that. Yeah. My broader point still stands, though.
Has anyone actually ever done a Twitter poll and been like, "Hey, Twitter community that follows me because I'm a streamer, should I stream a lot like next month?" It has to be. There's no way. That's like something Dorky would do.
What the hell? Why am I being attacked so much this episode? I feel like
Yeah, you
Dratnos
are.
has been attacking me, talking about my healing and shit.
Dude, you
and
can
Max
attack
talking about
Dratnos. Yo, if you're
the
watching this on
goddamn
YouTube right now,
World
look at
first and then
Dratnos's.
freaking
Yo, wait,
Cleaver
one
thing.
second. So, quick thing, YouTube comment, guess, and we'll tell you next week. Guess how long Dratnos was in the sun today total to get the sunburn that he has right now, and stay tuned to
It's not
find
just
out
today
more.
as well. It was like 4 days or 3 days ago. So
That was 4 days ago.
3 days ago. Yeah, 3 days ago.
Yeah, okay. It'll be like a nice little teaser. The number of how many hours he was outside will shock you.
Do you guys want to see
not a
the
lot.
part on my arm where it goes from sunburned to not sunburned? Hang on, let's see if it's.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my god. That is real.
All right.
Dude, that's okay. It's just crazy because I already know how long you were out in the sun, but just for people who are watching this, it is a comically small.
I don't think it's that complicated. Like, I feel like I don't think it's that
No, it's
weird.
not.
No, I don't. Anyways, body you
Okay,
later.
Yep. Pod later. Pod bye.
Yep.
She's on pain meds though. She's like, they said when I picked her up, they're like, yeah, give her the pain meds. Don't worry, she will drool with the pain meds, but that's completely normal. And during the podcast, she actually came up to me, and I wasn't expecting that, and she was like drooling insane. The people who are watching will probably notice, but I was like, what the fuck? I was like, holy shit. Like, what are you? She's drooling everywhere. It's all over the floor.